Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Choirun Rahmadhani, and today I would like to talk about U.S. foreign relations, but not in the usual way. We will look at it from a new and different perspective, based on the ideas from a historian named Walter L. Hickson. He shows us that American diplomacy is not always about peace or helping others, but often about power, ideology, and control. So let's begin with the first slide. In this slide, we see the title U.S. Foreign Relations, a New Perspective. Usually, when we study diplomacy, we focus on treaties, presidents, or wars. But Houston gives us a new way to think. He says that diplomacy is not just formal talks between countries. It is also about spreading American power, ideas, and culture to control the world. So, it is not only about peace, it is also about interest and influence. Next, in this slide 2, beyond traditional diplomacy. 1. Traditional diplomacy focuses on elite treaties and major events. And 2. Hickson emphasizes ideology, culture, and imperial power. So, foreign relations history has typically focused on official agreements and major figures like presidents or big events such as world wars. But according to Hickson, this approach is too narrow. He urges us to look at the role of ideology, or like the belief in democracy and capitalism, American culture, or lifestyle, media, language, and the desire to be a global power or imperialism instead of foreign policy. The point is we need to present, not just assess, the U.S. diplomatic actions. Next, in slide 3 is imperial ambition and expansions. The U.S. often extends its influence to other regions, primarily through colonizations like in the Philippines and Hawaii, and now through economics, media, and the military. But they rarely admit to control it, others because they use moral language to justify their actions. For example, when invading Iraq, the justifications was spreading democracy. However, strategic and economic motives were at play. This shows how imperial power is disguised using morally good-sounding language. And for example, the Spanish-American War, 1898, the U.S. entered the Philippines, Cuba, and Puerto Rico under the pretext of spreading democracy and freeing them from colonialism. But this also expanded U.S. influence. Next, in slide 4 is militarism and global interventions. The U.S. has the world's largest military. In many situations, it chooses military interventions over visible diplomacy. Examples include the Vietnam War, Gulf War, and the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. Hickson says militarism has replaced diplomacy, meaning that when conflict areas, the U.S. tends to use force before negotiations. This shows that their approach is more aggressive compared to other nations. For example, the 2003 Iraq invasion, the U.S. attacked Iraq, claiming it had withdrawn of mass restrictions, but none were fought. This shows how the military was used for political and regional control. Next, let's find the material about nationalism and exceptionalism. American exceptionalism is the belief that the U.S. is a special nation destined to do good and lead the world. This belief makes them feel responsible for interfering in other countries' affairs to save their people. It greatly influences how the U.S. makes foreign policy decisions. Fiction criticizes the attitude as arrogant and a potential trigger for conflict, since it assumes their values are better than others. For example, in speeches by U.S. presidents like George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan, they often claim that America has a moral duty to lead the world, uh, re- reflecting a sense of moral and political superiority. Next, let's see the material about hegemony versus mutual respect. So, hegemony means dominant power the U.S. often wants other countries to follow its system and views, like liberal democracy, capitalism, and its version of human rights. But not all countries share the same social conditions. And so, Hickson emphasizes that diplomacy should be based on mutual respect and equality, not pressure or force. In reality, the U.S. tends to impose its values through political and economic power. And for example, the U.S. rejection of International Court of Justice or ICJ rulings. The U.S. rejected the ICJ decision in the Nicaragua case, choosing to maintain its dominance rather than follow international law. Next, the material about rethinking foreign relations. So, Hickson wants students, researchers, and the public to question the heroic narrative of U.S. diplomacy. He encourages us to think critically. Is the U.S. truly spreading goods or just its own interests? Is their diplomacy fair? By analyzing power, pop culture, and ideology, we can understand international relations more realistically. For example, foreign aid from the U.S. is not always pure or selfless. For example, military aid to Israel is often criticized for benefit U.S. political stability more than global peace. Hickson urges us to think critically, not to blindly believe that U.S. diplomacy is always fair and for the common good. We must ask who benefits and whether these actions truly bring peace or just expand U.S. power. Next, U.S. foreign policy versus other nations. So, the U.S. often exerts alone in making foreign policy decisions without international approval. For example, from the UN, for instance, the 2003 invasion of Iraq happened without the UN Security Council's support. The U.S. also acts based on its own ideology rather than mutual agreement. Meanwhile, many other countries like Germany, Canada, or Japan prefer multilateral cooperations, making joint decisions through diplomacy. They value dialogue, consensus, and international justice. Comparison, for example, the U.S. often acts unilaterally, such as withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement under Trump. In contrast, the European Union remained committed to multilateral diplomacy through the UN. how to explain and slide it to the audience. So, friends, in this slide we can see a clear difference between the US and many other countries when it comes to foreign policy. The US tends to accelerate unilaterally, meaning they often make decisions of their own without involving other nations. And for example, when they invaded Iraq, it was without full UN approval. So that's all from me, and thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.